Hi,
Hello, how you doing?
I'm all right. It's too hot.
It is too hot.
Although it's cooled down. It is 7:15 and it has cooled down a little bit, but know.
True. Listener, we're recording this on the day that my kids have gone back to school. It's the hottest day of the year so far, I think. So that's all good fun. But also, it's the first time we've recorded an episode since the end of June. So we might be a bit rusty, or a bit more rusty than normal. Um, but do you know what? It's episode 42. I've got my towel. I've had a Pangalactic Gargle Blaster. We're ready to go.
Have you been reading something recently?
No, but if you know the significance of the number 42, then you will get it. Listener, if that's you, then let us know. And there's no prize for the winner. But anyway, we'll give you a shout out when we remember.
Yeah.
So good. We've got a great episode today, listeners, because
I'm a little bit worried.
we we are interviewing Wes's boss's boss.
Yes.
So if he's a bit quiet and restrained, then it's because he's scared and he doesn't want to get sacked, which is fair enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Even more quiet and restrained than normal. There we go.
Ah, dear.
All good.
So,
You've been away.
can I
You've
tell?
been traveling the world recently.
I've been traveling. Well, been traveling Northern Europe on a big boat, um, which I think I'll go into more in the next episode because today I really want to talk about where I went for Sunday dinner at the weekend, which was the Barn, which is near Lutterworth, in well, probably the border of Leicestershire and Warwickshire. It's an all vegan carvery, and I got to tell you, it's absolutely fantastic. The food choice was phenomenal. The amount of food was too much for me because I had so much that I uh, I had it for Sunday lunch and then didn't eat again until Monday lunchtime. That's how full I was.
That's
But
pretty
they do the standard carvery is like three
good.
types of vegan meat. So for us, it was I think let me think back. It was turkey flavor seitan, pork flavor seitan, and a sausage, and then roast potatoes, mashed potatoes, every vegetable you could think of, gravy,
That sounds like a giant.
stuffing,
That sounds like a giant.
and yes, and a giant Yorkshire pudding from Mabel's Foods.
Wow.
I tell you what, incredible, absolutely incredible. Yorkshire puddings is something that we've tried a few times, never come off, but the one that we had on Sunday was incredible.
Wow.
From so a shout out to Mabel's Foods for that, and a shout out to the barn as well. We'll tag them in the social media for this pod. But yeah, absolutely incredible. If you're anywhere in the Midlands, then it's definitely worth checking out. And
Cool.
not just for the carvery, they do stuff during the week as well. So it's open all week long, so you can go and check it out.
Awesomeness.
Yeah,
Might have to pop up there next time I come down to you.
yes, definitely. How about you? What have you been up to?
Um, Nothing much really. I have found, talking of vegan food, restaurants type things. Um,
Hmm.
I live near Rochdale, which is, there are good bits and there are bad bits, you know,
As with every town.
as with every town. But in the town centre of Rochdale, there is I don't think it's that new, but I think it either opened at the end, not the end, as COVID sort of lifted a little bit, COVID restrictions lifted. It's called Bombay Brew, and it has vegan options. It hasn't. It's not fully vegan, but they do a well. Every curry we've had there so far has been great. But I had cauliflower achani, I think it was called, and it was
Mm.
literally the best curry I've ever had. It's just,
Wow.
but just I've never tasted anything like it, and I'm desperate to find a recipe so I can just make them at home. Not to say that I don't want to go back. Obviously, I'll go back
No.
much nicer.
Do they
If you can.
do takeaway, or is it
No,
eating?
no, it's an eating thingy,
Oh, a proper one.
the proper one.
Oh,
Uh,
lovely.
yeah, it's really nice inside. It's got a kind of, I want to say like Moroccan shipwrecky type feel to it. Not like your average,
Wow,
very
that's
nice, but yeah,
bizarrely specific.
yeah, yeah. It's got that
Wow. Okay.
feel, but it's got like ship's wheels, and as much as we would hate them, fishing net or net,
Ooh, okay.
cargo net,
Cargo nets. There we
cargo
go.
nets.
We'll have that.
Um, Decorated everywhere. But yeah, it's amazing. It's really good place.
Even if they are fishing nets, it's better that they're on the wall of a restaurant than floating about in the ocean.
Yes, in the middle of the Pacific, definitely.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Good. Well, we've turned into a restaurant review podcast now. That
Yeah,
was an unexpected turn. I'm
yeah.
going to give one more shout out because I had to go into the office yesterday. I say had to. That's like a major hardship, like in the olden days when you used to do it 5 days a week, and that was just your job. But I went in the office yesterday, and just as I was on my way home, I came down the stairs at St James's Park station. And normally, because I'm a nerdy commuter, I normally like to walk along the platform a bit because I know if I get on a particular door, then I'll get off right by the stairs
Like it.
where I get off. Okay. But the train was already in the platform. So I just jumped on it at the nearest door. And right in front of me, three people holding vegan flags, vegan t-shirts, a bag covered in vegan badges. And I was like, this is meant to be. So happened to have a How I Vegan podcast badge attached to my work rucksack, which I swiftly unclipped and passed to them. And we had a nice chat between St James's Park and Embankment. So hello to Letitia and all her friends. They'd been doing some activism outside the embassy of Mauritius, protesting at the Mauritius government supporting the trade in live monkeys, where they send them to labs in the US for testing, which we don't like the sound of. But yes, they're involved in a lot of outreach in central London, and we'll tag Letitia in the social media post for this pod. So if you're in central London and you fancy a bit of activism, you can get in touch with her and she will tell you where they're going to be and when.
Oh,
So yeah,
sounds
that was
amazing.
a nice surprise at the end of a hot day in London.
Fantastic. Bit of networking never went amiss, did it?
Exactly.
Mm.
That's it. So all good.
Yeah.
What do we need to say now?
I can't remember. What do we say? I can't remember.
What do we say now? We say something like,
If
if
you
you want
want
to
to
get in,
get in touch,
go on.
want
This is how out of practice we are. Go on, you do it.
if you want to get in touch, send us a message on any of our social medias, of which there are many, but not all. And just yeah, tell us how great we are or how crap. But don't do that because that would be rubbish. And if you want to come on, do the same. Send us a message and say I'd like to come on, or ask us any questions, whatever you want. Get in touch.
Yeah.
Is there anything else they could do? Is there any other way they could get in touch with us?
Everything's on our link tree. So go to our probably Instagram is our most active platform. Go to our Instagram, How I Vegan Podcast, all one word, and click on the bio, the link in our bio, and that will take you to our link tree with all the info that you need. And you can find links to websites for some of our guests, links to the music of Vistopia, our favorite band. And what else? Yeah, anything else that you might need.
Yeah. or you can
And we
email
look forward
us
to
at
hearing from you.
or you can email us at hawaiiveganpodcast@gmail.com.
Oh, you still got it?
Nailing it.
Very good.
Cool. Hi, Bob.
How are you?
I'm not too bad. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. Thanks.
Hi, Sarah. Nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you, Matthew.
Is that the Amnesty International poster over your shoulder that was on the in Toby's office in the West Wing?
It is, and you're the only person that's ever picked up on that. It's been up there for years, but yes, it is.
He wears. This is how you win brownie points.
Absolutely. I'm a massive West Wing fan.
Yes, yes.
We sit in meetings and I always think of saying, should we talk about the elephant in the room? And no.
Looking at the wrong poster.
Oh, that one.
Next to it. It's the
Everyone
one, yeah.
comments on the elephant. Nobody has ever commented on that one, ever. So you got to be a West Wing geek to spot that, I think.
I'm having that.
Very good.
Excellent. My mum and dad are rewatching it for the God knows how many.
Yeah, I've done that.
I've lost count of how many times.
Yeah.
But yeah, they've got the DVDs at the minute, so we'll have to wait until they've finished it.
You can normally find it somewhere, can't you? It's normally on something or other. Yeah, we've watched it several times. When we get really stuck for anything decent to watch, so right, let's go back to West Wing, and then you're good for quite a long time then.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, back to the old faithful. Yeah, you're right. You've got it must be 200 episodes or something.
Yeah, it's like 8 seasons worth. Yeah.
Anyway, this isn't a West Wing podcast.
I've never watched a single episode, so I'm like,
you've never watched West Wing.
Sarah, I don't know if this maybe should be part of your future recruitment, but Wes doesn't watch telly.
Right.
He watches films, but he doesn't watch telly. He's weird.
Yeah, that is weird.
Films
He's watched every film.
So you just watch stuff that's streamed?
No, it's just
you just don't watch.
I see that you can get a film done in a couple of hours.
Yeah.
Whereas TV series, as you've just said, the West Wing can last forever.
Yes.
Whereas a couple of hours, the story's done. It's all finished.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I prefer the other. I prefer to get really into something that I know is going to last for a while.
Yeah.
Anyway, right. Let's do a little intro.
Yeah.
So,
are you doing that? Are you still doing that?
No, you can do it.
Okay, I'll do them.
Sarah's your guest.
So this week is a kind of a special episode because the guest for this week is my boss's boss, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Homestart Host. That's Oldham, Stockport, and Tameside.
And Bolton.
And Bolton, because I always forget Bolton says B's not in the host bit. But yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. So welcome to the podcast, Sarah. How are you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, thanks for having me.
How is it host and not hobst?
So yeah, well, so we used to be Homestart Tameside. Then we became Homestart Tameside and Oldham, and Homestart T&O for short. And then we were approached by Stockport. So there used to be 12 Homestarts in Greater Manchester. So when Homestart Oldham closed, we expanded from Tameside and became Tameside and Oldham. And then we were approached by Stockport, who asked us, would we take them on, basically. So we agreed to that, but didn't want to become Homestart TOS, Tameside Oldham Stockport. So that is why we then became host. So we shuffled it around to something to make it a little bit more palatable, and became Oldham, Stockport, Tameside, and host for short. So everyone, for a couple of years, everyone just called us host. And then when we took Bolton on, we couldn't figure out how to get a beat in there, and didn't want to have to keep saying Homestart Oldham, Stockport, Tameside, Bolton. No. It was too much of a mouthful. And because everyone just called us host, we legally changed our name to Homestart Host. So that's why it is host. It's a little bit random, but none of us could think of a better name, really, or of a way to get B in there.
And at least it was at Oldham and not somewhere beginning with I, because that'd have been really awkward. So tell us about Homestart then. What's because I know Wes does some work with you, but it's not entirely Homestart. So what's Homestart for the uninitiated?
So Homestart, we're a family support charity. So we're part of a federated network, basically. So there are 180 something Homestarts across the UK. There used to be a lot more. There used to be about 360, but there's been quite a lot of consolidation and mergers, and also sadly quite a few closures over the last few years. So there's about 180 odd of us across the UK. And the whole kind of ethos of Homestart is parents supporting parents. So there's a focus on children under the age of 5. So essentially we exist in order to support parents to give their children the best possible start in life. So we do that by focusing on supporting parents with children in the early years, that 0 to 5 period. So all Homestarts will have some level of volunteer home visiting, which is kind of the bread and butter core work of Homestart, which essentially involves recruiting people from the local community that tend to be parents themselves, training them and supporting them to visit families in their own homes for a couple of hours a week. And they'll offer emotional support, practical help to families with a huge range of needs. So it could be poverty, it could be social isolation, it could be mental health issues, it could be a combination of lots of different things. Quite often the families that we work with don't have that kind of social network around them or extended family. So the support that they can get from a volunteer is amazing support. So that's like the kind of main work of all Homestarts. And then from that, lots of Homestarts have developed different areas of work. And for us, we've got several areas of work. One of those main areas of work is supporting parent-infant mental health. So supporting parents to develop a really good relationship with their child, particularly in that 0 to 2 period. And we've been doing that work for around 8 years, maybe, or so. And Dad Matters, which Wes now works for, was part of that. Going on for 6 years ago, we kind of built on our parent and mental health work, recognised that we were doing really good work with that, but actually we were predominantly supporting mums with a female-dominated staff and volunteer workforce. So we tried to do something about that in partnership with our clinical colleagues, and fortunately we were successful in applying for a grant. And that grant was from the Health Foundation, and from that Dad Matters was born. So basically we got enough money for a year, kind of 15 months, to do some consultation work and some kind of project planning work. And we got Kieran in post through that, who's Wes's boss. And it's just grown from that. So it's been quite a journey over those kind of few years. We do quite a few other things as Homestart as well. So in Oldham and Tameside, we run infant feeding services. We've recently acquired a baby bank, which wasn't something that we'd planned on. So we have...
As in you can make a deposit or withdrawal?
No,
like
I
take
wish
a baby
it was
or
something along that side. So it's essentially like a food bank. But instead of going for food, you can access the baby bank through a referrer for essential items for babies and children up to the age of 10, basically. So for families that are struggling due to poverty or facing financial hardship for whatever reason, we can help them with a combination of clothing, equipment. So most of the items that we kind of distribute through the baby bank are donated by the public. So children grow really quickly, they grow out of clothes really quickly, and you also kind of get through your equipment quite quickly. So once you've no longer have use for your pram or cot, then people pass it on to us. We make sure it's clean, we safety check, and then we distribute it to families in need. So
Fantastic.
that's kind of something that we acquired because it was facing closure. It was previously run by another charity that unfortunately couldn't sustain the service for a number of reasons. We use the service a lot as Home Start, so we stepped in basically to take it on. So we've been officially running that since April. And our most recent endeavour is we are opening a charity shop, which we're just in the process of cleaning and kind of fitting out. We just got the keys a few weeks ago. So that's in Hyde in Tameside. So that will hopefully be open at some point over the next few weeks.
Brilliant.
So we do lots of other things as well, and lots of things that come and go, but that's kind of the main areas of work.
That's fantastic. A real lifeline to lots of people in lots of different situations.
Yeah, definitely. And
Fantastic.
families come to us for different reasons, and we've got a real kind of range of services from pregnancy up to age 5 that families can dip in and out of as they need, the different kind of services really. So yeah, so it's quite a good offer. We're quite a large Home Start, so we have got a lot to offer families. So
Yeah, that's a big area that you cover, isn't it, geographically,
it
and
is geographically,
population wise as well.
yeah, it's quite
Yeah.
significant. Yeah.
Mm.
So yeah.
So what would be the best way for people to get in touch if they need any of your services, or to find out more about your services?
Yeah, so you can go to our website, which is www.home-starthost.org.uk. I'm sure you can kind of share the website details if you've got any show notes or anything like that. So yeah, and we're always looking for volunteers as well. So if people are in those areas, those 4 areas, Oldham, Stockport, Tameside, Bolton, if you've got any time to spare, we've got a real kind of range of roles that people can get involved with, but we're always looking for volunteers. Yeah.
Fantastic. And that, I'm guessing that's the same wherever there's Home Starts. You said there were over 100. I'm guessing that's not nationwide coverage, but somewhere to, perhaps from your website they can find stuff that's more local to them.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got a national body. So we've got Home Start UK, that's kind of an umbrella organisation. So if people are interested in Home Starts, wherever they might be, if they Google Home Start UK, there's a map on there. You can enter your postcode and it will tell you where your nearest Home Start is. Yeah.
Fantastic. That's good. Thanks very much for that. That's very interesting. But not only are you CEO of Home Start Hosts, you're also an awesome vegan.
Yes.
So tell us about that. What's your vegan story?
Oh gosh, my vegan story. So vegan for I think I've lost track. I think I'm either in my 8th year or it will be 8 years in January. I get a little bit I can't quite remember. So I did Veganuary 8 years or so ago and stuck to it, which I kind of I'd been thinking about going vegan for a long time, but I'd convinced myself that it would be really difficult. Because I think we all think it's quite difficult before we actually do it, and then realize actually what the hell was I worried about? Why did I put it off for so long? So I thought, right, I can do it for a month. Anyone can do anything for a month, so I'll do Veganuary. But I had kind of hoped to stick to it, and I have done. So it was a lot easier than I thought. And yeah, so yeah, quite a while. But I also spent kind of 20 odd years as a vegetarian as well. So yeah, so
okay, sorry, I was just going to ask, what was it that made you start thinking about being vegan in the first place then? Because you said that you thought about it for a while and then you did Veganuary.
Yeah, so I went vegetarian when I was probably about 13, 14, and was vegetarian for a very long time until I got pregnant, which is going back quite a while now. But when I was having my eldest child, who's now 22, which makes me feel very old, yeah, I was kind of, things were very different then. It was kind of very, very early days of the internet, and there was none of those kind of resources around that are around now. And I was very much told by doctors, everyone, that I had to start at least eating fish, if not meat. So you think, well, I need to do the right thing for my baby that's developing. So I kind of believed all of that, and from that I did start eating meat again, which was like one of the things that I really regret now. So for a while I did eat meat again, and then I'd kind of convinced myself that I didn't eat a lot at all. But I'd convinced myself that I wanted to not only go back to being vegetarian, but I wanted to take that next step and go vegan. But I probably did put it off for a couple of years because I just thought that it was going to be really difficult. And I think, like most vegans that I speak to now, I just wish I'd have done it sooner, because it's so much easier than you think it's going to be. And once you've done it, you think, what was I so worried about? And why did I think it would be so complicated? I mean, things are so easy now as well, aren't they? I remember, like, when I first went vegetarian, I remember buying packs of Saucer Mix and TVP and soaking things overnight to make burgers. And, things are so different now, that it's as easy as you want it to be now.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
It's really incredible. We really have it so easy, don't we?
It's really easy. I think in some ways it's almost too easy, because there's so much vegan junk now.
Yes.
That it's easy to fall into that trap. So I went vegan. I went vegan for the animals, but soon kind of realized that actually I was feeling a lot better as well. So you kind of become more aware of the health impact of the food that you're eating. And from that I became more and more interested in whole food plant-based diets, rather than, because it's easy to eat vegan junk. So we do try to be like whole foods as much as possible. We're not entirely whole foods. I know, like, some people are. We're not, because life is busy, and if there was time to spend all day every day doing meal prep, it might be a lot easier, but it's difficult. I've got a busy job, so sometimes it needs to be whatever falls out of the freezer, and that's when it then becomes a bit easy to rely on the vegan junk quite a bit. But some of it is so nice that it's quite hard to turn away from.
You have to be mindful, don't you, of like like say, of eating that junk food and then just going, hang on a minute, we just need some like a vegetable dinner.
Yeah.
Have a roast dinner with tons and tons of vegetables in it, and it's like, I'm all right now.
Yeah.
So did you find anything like, and was there any difficulties you found over from when you changed to now? Any struggles with that?
I think, like everyone, giving up cheese was difficult, because I don't care what anyone says, I've yet to find a palatable vegan cheese. They're all rank, if you ask me.
They don't exist.
They don't exist at all. Yeah. So that was the thing that took the longest time to kind of get over the cravings for, I guess. Now, yeah, occasionally I will miss a bit of cheese, but it's not the typical, pizzas and things like that. You can absolutely have a pizza without cheese on, and I would prefer to have no cheese rather than vegan cheese a lot of the time. So I don't kind of miss it in that sense. Just every now and then we kind of get a craving for some crackers or something like that. It's, like I used to really like the crumbly Lancashire cheese and things like that. That there's just no like nice vegan kind of alternative to those kind of things. But things improve all the time, and I do quite like the vegan Philadelphia these days. So that.
Oh yeah, that's not bad.
That's quite good.
I just saw this evening that I think it's Honestly, hold on, I'm just going to Google it. Honestly Tasty, I think they are. Yes, I've just launched a brie that's for sale in Holland and Barrett.
Oh, okay.
That's just come out, so that I've had a couple of their bits before that have been pretty good.
Yeah.
But really, the only vegan cheese I've had that's been any good was in a restaurant in Belgium, and
Oh, okay.
that's a long way to go just for a bit of cheese.
That's a long way.
But isn't it addictive, cow cheese? Isn't it
Yes.
got something
Yeah.
in it? And that's why it's
Yeah.
people often say, "Oh, yeah, I really struggle with cheese,"
Yeah.
because
I
it's
think,
it's like
yeah,
heroin or something, isn't it?
it is. Yeah. And what I think once you start to, once you get into all the kind of science behind food and nutrition and try to understand a bit more about that kind of thing, it's a real eye opener. So I know, like when I first went vegan, I didn't feel like I needed to watch a lot of the kind of animal focused films and things like that. I'd already made that decision. It already kind of horrifies me, and I know that I'm not going back. But the things that I was really interested in were things like Forks Over Knives and Cowspiracy and all of those kind of things that really kind of shine a light on the way that food is marketed, and the kind of stuff that's in there that we just don't know about. Really kind of got interested in like Michael Greger and Dr. Clapper and Campbell and all of that, and it is just a real eye opener. So yeah, there's definitely kind of addictive elements to cheese, and once you kind of do find out actually this stuff is really, really bad for you. So not only is it bad for the animals, it's really bad for you to consume it. And then it's a real eye opener, and it also kind of, for me, it's like, why doesn't everyone see this? Why can't everyone appreciate all of this information? Well, there's definitely no going back.
You mentioned somebody then that I didn't know. I don't know who they are. Was it Michael?
Oh
Something?
yeah, so Michael Greger. So he's a vegan doctor. So they're all American. But there is, so they've all been involved in some of the films like Forks Over Knives and Cowspiracy and things like that. And I think with Dr. Colin Campbell and Dr. Esselstyn, they have very much kind of led the way in the benefits of a whole food plant-based diet for things like preventing and reversing heart disease and diabetes and those kind of things. So they're very much coming at things from a health angle. I think Dr. Esselstyn was a cardiologist who kind of just got fed up of fixing patients with heart disease and kind of really kind of this is going back years and years, and he kind of really did his research and found out a lot more about areas in the world where they don't have the same kind of levels of heart disease as they do in America. And once you start to look into that and you see that the diets are massively different, and kind of all the evidence kind of really stacks up, which people know about the risk of eating too much red meat and those kind of things. So not only for heart disease and diabetes, but also for cancer. So that there's a lot of kind of health science out there, but it's very well hidden and kept in the shadows by the animal agriculture industry. So it's quite hard to get through that, through all the marketing and the messaging and the power that they have got. But I find all that side of it really interesting, and all of that was stuff that I wasn't aware of when I made the decision to become vegan. But it just really adds to everything about animal welfare that's already kind of there in terms of my values and things that I just don't want to engage in because I don't think it's right. It then really kind of adds to all of that. So I find all of that really interesting.
Because would that have been that research you're on about? Is that the stuff that was perhaps linked to the China study?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
that blew my mind. We
yeah.
we went to vegan camp out last year, and I was watching the PETA talk
Yeah,
about the China study. Came straight home and I had a Google of it, and it's mind blowing the stuff they got from that.
absolutely. Yeah.
Incredible what we found just from one country.
It really is. There's something on Netflix at the minute. I don't know if you've seen it about like how to live to 100, which
oh right, sorry, yes, something.
Yeah, which I haven't watched yet, but that's about the blue zones, which again is like predominantly whole food plant-based diet. So and so much of people say, well, vegan can't afford a vegan diet, it's all really expensive. Well, yes, it is if you're buying processed stuff, but actually a lot of vegan food is peasant food. It's really cheap food. It's your pulses, your legumes, yes, all your fresh veg and what have you, which, if you are on a budget, it can be cheaper to buy a ready meal than it can be to buy fresh vegetables, but that's part of everything that's wrong with our country at the minute. But the essentials around, a bag of lentils is far cheaper than buying a slab of red meat, and pound for pound there's more protein actually in the lentils. So there's a lot there, and I think if you're interested in all of that, there's so much information out there to make it really easy to find out that information, get really good recipes and tips, and it's kind of easier than you think, really.
Absolutely. And the lentils aren't subsidized in the way that meat is by governments around the world. It's absolutely incredible, the price that people pay for meat. And they say, oh yeah, well, vegan food is expensive. Well, maybe if vegan food was subsidized to the level that meat is subsidized, then people would realize, actually, do you know what? We're not paying enough for the animals on our plates. Absolutely. Is the issue.
Yeah. And the dairy industry is the same as well. Meat and dairy, it's all subsidized. Whereas broccoli isn't, it's bonkers, isn't it? Which is better for people.
Although I can't imagine them giving kids broccoli in schools at break times. I don't think that would go down very well.
I was wondering actually, so I mentioned to Kieran that you were coming on. He said he'd be interested for me to ask this question. You don't have to answer it if you don't want to. So
okay.
Or we can edit it out if it's really awkward.
So Kieran said it'd be interesting to know how it feels to be vegan working in the sector that we work in. The example is, as you raised when we discussed it, is we recently did a zoo visit for the families. So how does that sit with you?
I guess I've got kind of mixed feelings about some of that stuff. I think working in the voluntary sector, you're probably more likely to find other vegans in the voluntary sector than in the corporate world. I think people who work in the voluntary sector tend to be really values-led people. We wouldn't be there otherwise, because we certainly don't do it for the money. We do it because we care about whatever the cause is that we are working for, and that comes from a place of being a values-based person. So occasionally I do come across other vegans. It's not very often, but it does happen. I think the reaction that I get probably mostly is almost one of, I wish I was doing that. I wish I was vegan, because you can see people have got those values themselves, but they possibly haven't made that connection. I think I've seen that more so over the last few years as people become more and more aware about the impact of the animal agriculture industry on the climate. And, everyone is becoming much more aware of the climate crisis. And, as well as animal welfare and health, there is that environmental impact of having a vegan diet, and people are becoming more aware of that. So I do find people almost trying to justify themselves to me more and more, where it's, oh, I only eat meat like once a week now, or we have a couple of plant-based days a week, or so people are much more aware of it. So that side of it, I think, I don't think working in the voluntary sector is probably any different to anywhere else, but I do think you're more likely to find kind of sympathetic people. I've certainly never had anyone in a work environment kind of make fun of me the way that I might do with my own family, or you know, other people that like to have a cheap dig at vegans. So that, you know, there is certainly a level of interest and sympathy, I think, that you come across. In terms of things that we do within our own organisation, some things do make me feel uncomfortable, but I do have to kind of keep that in check to a large extent, because ultimately, you know, I'm in a position of power and I have to be very mindful of that, given my role as chief executive. You know, it's I'd like to think I'm not somebody who goes, you know, wielding their power around unnecessarily, but just by dint of my role, I am in a, you know, a position of authority. So I have to be quite mindful of, you know, when it is and isn't appropriate to then share my views, or kind of certainly don't want to press my views onto people where it wouldn't be appropriate. And you have to kind of balance it. So whereas, you know, the zoo trip would kind of make me feel, you know, and does make me feel uncomfortable now, but I also know that before I was vegan years ago, when my children were little, so like going back 20 years, I did take my children to the zoo, you know, so because I didn't kind of know any better at that time. And I was kind of, again, kind of, you know, led to believe that the zoos were kind of, you know, working on conservation and, you know, all of that stuff. Whereas now I know more because I'm a bit more informed, but I've made the effort to be informed. But I also don't think I've got the right to impress my view on particularly disadvantaged families who would never be able to afford a day out like that themselves. And to a large extent, we give the families that we work with the autonomy and you know, the ability to engage in what they want to do. So it's not a case of us saying we're going to the zoo. It's a case of us consulting with the families that we work with. We're going to put on a day out for you. What do you want to do? And overwhelmingly, the request came, well, we'd like to go to the zoo. I'd like my children to see these animals. And, you know, so I don't feel like it's my place to deny those families that opportunity, as uncomfortable as it does make me feel. And actually, one of the reasons why that did kind of push me to really want to go vegan years ago was because we did a trip to Smith Hills Farm years ago with Homestart families, and I went on that day out and just came home feeling quite horrified, actually. So part of the kind of experience of the day was to go into the milking shed, and although this kind of milking shed had open sides, the stench in there it was like very kind of sulfurous smell. I was literally gagging. So like most people that were there had to keep coming out, just couldn't stand it. And that was one of the things that actually pushed me over the edge, because that is not right. That can't be right. And I've kind of I have experience of farms, so when my mum, who's no longer with us, but she was my mum was from Ireland and she was born on a farm. So every time we went over to Ireland when I was a child, we'd be around, you know, on farms, and they had cows, and you know, but my experience of that was very, very, very different to go, you know, to that kind of small scale, but what felt like very intensive, you know, farming to me. And again, that kind of made me curious, I guess, about, you know, because before that, like a lot of people, you think, oh, well, where's the harm in milk? And, you know,
yeah,
you don't really think about these things until you become curious to start to find more out, and you know, then you become horrified. But yeah, so it does make me feel uncomfortable now, but lots of other things that I come across at work make me feel uncomfortable, and I have to be quite mindful of. And there are some things that make me feel quite frustrated sometimes, so, you know, in a work environment. And again, I have to hold my tongue quite a lot. And just I think again, and it's like a lot of the vegan debate. You can have your kind of your carrot oil sticks with the vegan, trying to persuade people to become vegan, or trying to have that debate and that argument. And there are different approaches to that. Personally, I prefer the kind of the kind of positive messaging around it that would hopefully lead people to become vegan themselves, rather than kind of browbeating them or saying trying to shame them or make them feel guilty, because I don't think that is as successful from my point of view. I think Rich Roll, I don't know if you ever kind of listen to his podcasts and things, but he kind of describes himself as wanting to be the lighthouse, kind of leading people to where he's at in terms of veganism. And I kind of think, I can see, for me, that feels more positive than to be the one saying, oh, you shouldn't do that, and to kind of have that more combative style doesn't, I don't think that I don't think it's as successful, and certainly for where I am in a work setting, it wouldn't be appropriate.
No.
So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but
it's at work it is a minefield, isn't it? Because you want to stay true to your values, but also you've got to pay the mortgage, so you can't be in there with your placards and having a go at people and holding up the cube of truth and all that kind of thing, can you? So
absolutely,
it's it is really difficult to get that right balance without being completely alienated by your colleagues.
Yeah, it is difficult. And I think sometimes, when you say things just as a matter of fact, it's just as powerful as if you're trying to, persuade or stop something. Like, I wouldn't want to stop the zoo trip because I don't want to spend money on the zoo, but I wouldn't want to stop that because I just don't feel that would be appropriate in my position to do that. Even though I could, I don't think it would be appropriate.
Yeah, that makes sense.
There's nothing better than a hunk of prime Labrador steak, wonderfully marbled. And that is almost entirely dependent on how it's produced. Elwood's Organic Dog Meat has complete control of this entire journey. So I'm here at Elwood's farm to find out a little more about it.
Welcome to Elwood Farms.
Thank you very much, Elwood.
I hear you do a bit of barbecuing?
I do a little bit of barbecuing every now and then, yes. From a chef's point of view, consistency is key for everything.
It doesn't matter if it's a Rottweiler ribeye, a Pyrenees mince, or a lab sirloin.
You can always tell when the dog comes from a place where it was well reared. And every step has to be right, doesn't it? Oh, you should see these guys. So, from an Elwood's point of view, there's complete traceability.
Absolutely. Unrivaled traceability, so it's fine.
Every single piece of dog meat.
Yeah, from pub to farmer's market.
Everything the dog's been fed.
Everything about it.
For each dog.
Yeah, only Marks and Spencer's and Whole Foods do this.
Where else can people order from?
From elwooddogmeat.com. That's ELWOOD dogmeat.com.
For top quality meat from dogs for people, meat that's local, sustainable and humanely harvested, there's only Elwood's Organic Dog Meat. They seem pretty friendly, don't they? They're more responsive to me than my kids, to be honest.
Hey, thanks for coming back.
Hey.
I was worried you might not come back because you were writing up some sort of disciplinary paperwork for Wes.
You've been planning that for a while, haven't you?
I wrote that down on the train on the way home.
Oh,
Such an idiot.
It's happy
I
days.
wouldn't
Anyway,
discipline the only other vegan on the team.
yeah, he's got a protected characteristic now. So, yeah.
Give me free rein. Brilliant.
Not quite.
No, don't push it. Excellent. So when you went vegan, then Sarah, what did your friends and family think about it? I know you mentioned you've got a sort of farming background, or in your
Not so
extended
much a
family,
farming background, but yeah,
but
my
within
mum,
the family. Sorry.
yeah, my mum grew up on a farm.
Mhm.
Yeah, you kind of get, oh, I couldn't do it. I couldn't live without. I can't live without my meat. Yeah, you can. It's not the same as oxygen. You can. So yeah, I still get quite a bit of pushback for. I've got three sisters that are all older than me, quite a bit older than me as well. So I've always been the baby of the family.
Right.
So there's still that sense of it. It's them. So they're quite close in age, and then along I came like 11 years later. So there's 11 years between my next youngest sister, and 14 years between me and my eldest sister. So yeah, they all kind of share the same views of, very much meat eaters. In fact, my eldest sister has spent some time on like the paleo diet, and so she's like exact opposite, which is, I think, I don't know enough about it, but she spent time doing Atkins years ago,
Oh, wow.
which is like loads and loads of meat. I believe paleo is very similar. I don't know if it's like Atkins that's been rebranded since Atkins died
Since he
himself.
died, yeah.
So so she kind of is very kind of staunch meat eater and what have you. So there's a bit of kind of pushback there, but then like my own family, it absolutely fine. And in fact, my daughter went vegan not long after me, so she was
Brilliant.
vegetarian for a while, and she not long after me went vegan, and it's also stayed vegan. So because she was also vegan, I was cooking mainly vegan meals. So I've got a son as well. So he's just turned 20, and he is absolutely not vegan and has no intention of ever kind of being so. Despite my gentle, kind of encouragement to eat more vegetables and what have you. So, but because I was cooking predominantly kind of vegan, my husband, who was previously not interested at all in being vegan, is he's certainly vegetarian. I think he's not eaten meat for a very long time. He eats very, very little kind of non-vegan food. He's not vegan, and he wouldn't describe himself as vegan. Like he would go out and buy leather shoes, without giving that a second thought. But certainly in terms of his diet, he is kind of 95% plant-based.
Wow.
It's cheese. It's the cheese that that he struggles with every now and then. So I wouldn't describe him as vegan at all, but he's certainly shifted massively since I went vegan. And he's become, again, much more aware, I think, largely because I've kind of made him sit and watch quite a lot of the programs that I've watched. So, and even if he's not actively watching it, just the fact that it might be on and he's in the room, I think he's kind of absorbed some of it through osmosis and has just like gradually kind of consumed vegan propaganda, whether willingly or not. So he's definitely shifted. So there's been a bit of a mix, really. Friends, like, yeah, I think the first question was like, why? People are like, why would you do that? But now they accept it, and actually I've made quite a few new friends since being vegan that are other vegans, just through the vegan community and what have you. And that's really great, because that there's that shared value base. There's it doesn't even need to be a conversation. It's just that you're both coming from the same place. And I've now, quite pleased to say, I know quite a few vegans and some of them I meet up with, every week, a couple of times a week with some of them, and some of that is through vegan runners.
Yes.
So,
Yes. Wes always moans at me because most of the guests that I've got on have been people I've met through vegan runners. And this one, I could take no blame whatsoever.
It's
Fantastic.
great.
Well
I
done,
mean,
Sarah.
yeah, it's yeah, I think there's just such a great vegan runners community out there. It's absolutely brilliant. So most of my now like vegan friends, I've met 3 fantastic vegan runners that we meet up quite regularly, and also some other vegans. So like another thing that that we do is we have an allotment, and actually 2 of the other people that I don't know everyone that's got an allotment on our site, but certainly know 2 of them that are also vegan. So that again, there's there's that interest in healthy food, and I think similar to me, I think both of those people came to veganism through what wanting to do the right thing for animals, but then kind of get more interested in food and nutrition, and the kind of natural link from that to kind of growing your own food. And so it's quite nice to have to know people, to have friends with those kind of shared interests. But yeah, vegan runners has been, like, I would say, instrumental in kind of my vegan friendships developing, really.
Fantastic. It's I say it nearly every episode, but it's been such a great support for me, to meet so many new people, and without that, I don't know how else I would find other vegans.
No, because
other
there's
than
not
just
that
hanging
many of
around
us
a
out
restaurant
there.
or something.
Yeah, there's not that many of us out there, really. So
No.
in terms of general population size, but yeah, I think vegan runners has been brilliant. And actually, so through vegan runners, I kind of met somebody at my local park run. We arranged to meet up. She was a vegan runner from Wigan, so we arranged to meet up at the park run in Wigan, and we've become really good friends. We run during the week and we meet up at park run, and then there's 2 other vegan runners at park run. So again, one of them comes out with us. We tend to run on a Thursday evening, and then we meet up at park run, and there's a group of us, so do park run, and then coffee and chat afterwards. And
yeah, that's the best
it takes
bit.
up all, it takes up all like the Saturday morning. It's really good.
Yeah, fantastic. Is Wigan your local? Yeah, when you finished, is Wigan your local one then? Yeah,
it is. Hay Woodland Park Run, that's my nearest. So I actually live in Chorley, so there isn't one in Chorley, but I'm kind of I'm on the Wigan side of the Chorley borough. So yeah, that's my nearest one, which is it's lovely. Actually, it's a gorgeous setting. It's a tough park run though, I think, but I think they're all tough. But yeah.
If anyone ever suggests Watergrove,
right,
make sure you're busy that day.
Okay.
I did that one when I visited Wes one weekend, and it nearly killed me. And it turns out it's in the top 5 hardest park runs in the country or something. Yeah, it's horrible.
Gosh, whereabouts is that one then, Wes?
So
it's Rochdale, Wes.
Just outside Rochdale, between Rochdale and Littleborough. But it's like Matthew found that there's a grading on the website.
There is, yeah.
And Watergrove was 8 out of 10.
Wow.
Yeah, it's basically you start here, you go down,
but
then obviously you have to come back up.
Come back up.
Yeah, it was. Going down, I was like, oh, this is great. And then I was like, oh, wait a minute. Here we go.
Yeah.
You're basically crawling at the end.
Yeah, they're tough. Hay is a bit like that, but so the first half is downhill, but then, as you say, you got to come back up. So yeah, it's quite tough.
So apart from parkrun, what's the apart from vegan runners, what's the best thing about being vegan?
Best thing, I think it's just you go to bed at night with a clear conscience, don't you? You don't kind of feel that guilt about what you've maybe implemented on on animals during that day. I think yeah, I don't know, I think you just feel lighter in yourself somehow for not contributing to all of that. I think that's the best thing. I think everything else, there are so many benefits, the kind of health benefits, and being able to kind of meet people with that shared values system, that that you're doing the right thing for the planet, which is more important than ever. But yeah, that sense of, when you're out on a walk or anything like that, you see, whether it might walk past a field of sheep or cows or whatever, and you really feel for them, because you know what their fate is going to be, but at least you know that you're not contributing to that. So it is that kind of, that sense of, yeah, at least I'm not paying someone to contribute to that on my behalf.
You said there about the guilt thing, and it just made me think, it's a guilt that you don't realise you have.
Yeah.
Because you always, if you feel guilty about doing something, but you don't actually realise that you feel guilty until you stop doing it, and you're like,
yeah,
oh, now I feel like a right ass,
Yeah, but that's that cognitive dissonance, though, isn't it? And we are all conditioned to think that we need animal products, whether that's the meat or the milk. That is completely conditioned into us as a population. It goes back to what I was saying before about when I was first pregnant. I was told that if I wanted to do the right thing for my developing baby, I had to eat meat, basically, or at least eat fish. And I didn't know any better then. And you believe what you're told. You believe what you're told by.
I was going to say, you'd expect a medical professional to tell you the truth, wouldn't you? It's
yeah.
But now, knowing what we know, it's just incredible.
It is incredible, and I think what is really incredible is when you find out just how little, if any, the medical profession, how little education there is for the medical profession on nutrition. They barely scratch it. It's it's the one thing that's in all of our power to control, isn't it? Is what goes on your plate for each meal that you sit down to eat. And the only time it really gets spoken about is in relation to obesity. And then they just talk about moderation because they don't want to be a nanny state and telling people what to do. But actually, they don't tell you about how what you're eating contributes to cancers and heart disease and diabetes and all of that. And I don't think the medical profession is aware enough of the modern research, and it only takes the kind of the research that gets all the press attention, so like the national press attention. Like years ago there was a whole thing about butter, and it's like, oh hallelujah, butter's really good for you, it's better than everything else. But when you look into the research and you find out actually it was sponsored by the animal agriculture industry, it's the same with eggs. Oh, eggs are really good for you, but actually trace the research back. But busy kind of medical staff, they don't necessarily have the time. They just kind of read, and if it looks like it's a peer-reviewed piece of research, then they kind of think, well, they don't really kind of dig under it and kind of question it, I guess, because the power that's out there to influence and shape the way that we all kind of think and feel about what we eat. But yeah, it's kind of huge.
It's scary.
It is scary. It is scary, and anyone who kind of questions that, people easily dismiss, conspiracy theory, and but it doesn't take much research to learn to follow the money, and that then really excuse me, does kind of just make you evaluate things in a very different way, I think.
Yeah, totally.
That's very true. Is it my question now? Sorry, we're a bit out of practice. We haven't done one for about 3 months. Okay, I'll edit that bit out, don't worry. It'll sound really professional. So this is our favorite bingo question. Where do you get your protein and other nutrients?
Oh gosh, there's protein in everything. I've never met anybody who's protein deficient or heard of anybody being sick through protein deficiency.
Nope.
So yeah, protein from there's bits of protein in most foods, but it's quite easy to just chuck a handful of lentils into whatever you're making. Do eat quite a bit of tofu. Yeah, and then there is a little bit too much vegan junk. I have become a little bit obsessed since Richmond brought out their sausages and the bacon. I just
Yes.
love the Richmond ones. So they do sneak in a couple of times a week. Probably far too much than they should. But yeah, it's so easy to get your protein.
It is. It is.
Absolutely.
So what advice would you give to someone who came to you thinking of going vegan?
I would say just do it. It's easier than you think. And there is loads of support out there. Places like Veganuary, so you don't have to wait for January to get support from Veganuary. There's support and information out there all the time, and there is so many resources now to get free recipes and ideas, and there's just a really, really great community out there that will absolutely bend over backwards to support people on their vegan journey. There's very, very few of us that have been vegan from birth. So there's no, from my point of view, there's very little judgment around people transitioning from because it's a lot to do overnight. Very few people do kind of make that decision and change overnight. So everyone that I've ever spoken to that's vegan is only too happy to support other people that are kind of vegan curious, and to support them on that journey in any way that we can, whether that is giving them kind of links to information, films that help people to become a bit more informed, or recipes, or just where to kind of get your fixes for things like if I was always and still am a bit of a chocoholic. So what's good chocolate? People often ask questions about milk, which milk to use and things like that. So that there is so much support out there, and it's quite easy to find. So say for anyone considering it, just do it, and probably like most of us, your only regret will be that you didn't do it sooner.
100%.
Definitely. That's such a common common theme amongst vegans, isn't it? That I mean, for me and Wes, we didn't go vegan until we were 40.
Yeah,
that's a lot of time to make up. But that's we didn't know any better.
Yeah, well, I'm the same. Yeah, I'm exactly the same.
That's it. All we can do is try and make up for it with the time that we've got now. So
yeah,
that's it. Okay, so who's your vegan? I am. Who's your vegan inspiration? You mentioned Rich Roll earlier on, and
Michael
I
love Rich Roll. I don't know. I have it depends kind of what element of veganism, I think. So in terms of kind of animal advocacy, I would have to say Earthling Ad, out of all the different kind of animal rights advocates out there. I would have to say his style, I think he's so eloquent, and I admire just how calm he remains in every debate that he has. So he's like absolutely kind of up there. Did have the pleasure to meet him very, very briefly a few years ago. My daughter was auditioning for something in London, so we made a trip to Unity Diner and
Nice.
in its previous location. I've been to the new location as well. But he was actually in there, which we hadn't realized, just sat down looking at the menu and just kind of glanced around. What's there? So we had to go over and just say hello. And yeah, and he was very gracious, got a photograph of him with my daughter. And yeah, so I think he's definitely kind of up there. And then I think from a health perspective, it's probably Rich Roll through the amount of information that I've found through Rich Roll. So I discovered Rich Roll years ago, probably about 6 or 7 years ago, and started listening to some of the podcasts, which has led me on this kind of health curious journey, I guess, through, you know, just finding out more and more and being really kind of touched by just how inspirational some of his podcast guests are, and just, you know, particularly interested in those coming from a science perspective behind, you know, why whole foods plant-based diet is, you know, is better for us than, you know, kind of standard diets. So there's that side of it. And then there's you know, the kind of environmental side of it. And I think it's been quite nice to see people like Chris Packham, you know, recently doing Veganuary a couple of years ago, and you know, to see him stick to it and become, you know, quite a good kind of advocate. And also other people like Deborah Meaden, who, although she doesn't describe herself as vegan, you know, she's you can see the journey that people like that have kind of been on. And I think, you know, when you've got high profile people like that kind of making that transition and you know, becoming much more interested in veganism, then it has such a ripple effect that it, you know, it's good for, you know, for people who are kind of curious about veganism. And I think, you know, to see that there are so many different facets and elements of the benefits of being vegan. It always comes back to the animals, but there are other benefits. And I think, you know, for some people, if one of the other kind of benefits is the route for them to enter veganism, then that can only be a good thing, because ultimately the animals don't care. They don't care why you stop eating them, they just care that you do. So I think it can only be a good thing to have, you know, kind of all the different reasons and different people that can kind of speak to those different reasons.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great answer.
Do you have a favourite vegan restaurant or venue currently?
Not so much vegan restaurant. It's a bit, yeah, I live in Chorley, so there isn't a great deal of choice, but there's a great place just outside of Chorley called Wynn's Green Kitchen, which is vegan and vegetarian, but most of it is vegan. It's quite good because actually, you know what it's like as a vegan. You go into a restaurant and there might be 1 or 2 things on the menu identified as vegan. So they give you a vegan menu, there might be 1 or 2 things identified on it as vegetarian. So it's quite good. You know, a lot of the stuff is like probably 95% of it is vegan. There are 1 or 2 things in there that do include dairy. That's a really nice place, a really stunning location as well. So it's quite nice locally. And then there's kind of some of the big kind of chains have really, you know, developed in recent years, haven't they? So I think Wagamama's quite good for vegans, and Pizza Express has got, you know, quite good kind of options. Yeah, that's probably it for me, because like I said, you know, there are a couple of places in Chorley that are you know, that cater quite well for vegans, but there aren't many that are exclusively vegan places, unfortunately.
That is frustrating. But I'm in pretty similar boat here in Northamptonshire, that there's plenty of vegan options, but there's only a couple of proper vegan restaurants in Northampton. There's not even one in Kettering where I live, but you know, just have to make the best of it, don't you? There's some that do some really inventive vegan options, and then you save your special trips for proper vegan restaurants.
That's it. I went to a great place recently in just outside Southport near Ainsdale. That was really nice. I can't remember what it was called. Something like Wild Rose or Wild Roots or something like that. That was exclusively vegan. But it's a bit of a journey for us. We'd been to the beach at Ainsdale for the day, so cold in there. But that was nice. But yeah, unfortunately, there's not that many that are exclusively vegan.
No, it's a shame. Okay, so this is our final question, and it's one we started asking probably about a year ago when we came across the term Vistopia, which is the I'm probably going to get this wrong now. I'm so out of practice. The anguish that vegans feel at living in a non-vegan world, and how we cope with it. But do you have hope for the future?
Yeah, I think so. I think I think there are quite a few universities now that are moving towards fully plant-based menus within university catering. There are schools that have at least one, sometimes more than one, plant-based day on the school meals calendar per week. I think young people are so much more aware of lots of things, actually, whether that is whether that's thinking about animal rights or the environment. Maybe not as much health, because young people think they're invincible, like we all do when we're young, so maybe that's not so much on their mind. But certainly from an environmental point of view, I think our young people are probably a lot more switched on than we give them credit for sometimes. And I think there is far more chance of, our younger generation making the changes that we need to see than there are of people of the older generation who just kind of dismiss the arguments out of hand, and who typically get their news and information from mainstream sources, whereas young people get their news and information from alternative sources as well. And I think that that hopefully will lead to change, because they a little bit more open-minded, a little bit more skeptical maybe, and dismissive of what's kind of fed to them from kind of mainstream sources. So yeah, I think we have to have hope. I think it's easy to despair as a vegan when you think about the horrors that happen every day, and I think if you don't keep on hold of that little bit of hope, it's easy to drown in that. So I think we have to have hope.
100%. There's a thing that you said there about Chris Packham as well. I saw an Instagram post. I'm looking for it. I can't really find it. But there's been, I think it's in plant-based news somewhere, that Chris Packham and a group of other people have what's the word? Put out there.
I mean, there's loads of words. Go on.
They're pushing for universities to make all their restaurants fully vegan.
Right.
Oh, wow.
That went out today, apparently.
Okay.
Is that part of plant-based universities?
It might be, yeah. But I just saw it about half hour before we came on, and it was Chris Packham and a bunch of other celebs and activists and whatnot have sort of made this push to say to universities to make it happen. There's been a few universities do it, and then some that have said, no, we're not going to do it. And it's like you said, like you said, Sarah, the kids are our future.
Yeah.
And those kids that are in universities are the type that are going to make those differences, I think.
They will. And I think, it'd be interesting to know why a university would say they would do it and then change their mind. And that goes back to that skepticism around who's putting pressure on them for them to change their mind and follow the money. And but yeah, that people already are starting to choose. And in the kind of 8 years or so that I've been vegan, I've seen a massive change in that time in terms of what's on offer. And I never struggle to find something to eat where, no matter where I am. So I think, the fact that there is more on offer shows that there is more of a demand for it. And yeah, I think that the two will feed each other.
We've said before on previous episodes how, like Matthew said, we both changed 5 years ago now when we were both 40, and the difference from then till now is exponential.
Massive, isn't it?
It's like it's only going to keep happening. That we do see restaurants closing down. We see, is it Beyond Meat have just gone into receivership or something. But it's just because there's so many other brands out there as well now. It's not that there's no call for it. It's the fact that it's growing. So there's more competition now.
Absolutely. And I think some of those brands are quite expensive, and actually when really good alternatives come along, because like the Beyond Burgers, they're really expensive. And actually, like the Co-op's own burgers, they're my favorite. They're really cheap. So that it's good to have choice. But yeah, I think I read something. There was something about Heck a few weeks ago, wasn't there, saying, there's no demand for vegan food, so we're stopping our vegan sausages. No, your sausages were rubbish. So that's why nobody's buying them, because they were rubbish.
Yeah, that's right. We've tried them and we were like,
nah. So when you've got choice, but I think businesses have clearly cottoned on that there is a demand for vegan. It's quite interesting actually to see now much more of the beauty industry labeling things as vegan as well, because that's definitely a new thing. And I've seen that on TV a few times recently, like Garnier or what shampoos and things, and clearly targeting and marketing them at a vegan audience. That's something quite new, I think, from the big brands. So there's clearly a need out there that they're trying to hook into that demand.
That's it. That's good. That's awesome. Well, Sarah, we're at the end. Thank you so much for your time. It's been fascinating, and I hope we didn't do anything that's going to get Wes in trouble. But thank you so much for talking to us about Homestart and about your vegan life. And thanks for mentioning vegan runners as well.
It's always good to talk to other vegans. So nice.
It is, absolutely.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
See you next
time.
Bye.
See you. Bye. Bye.
She was great. Well done.
I
don't think you got sacked there. I don't think you did enough to get sacked. Well done. Great guest.
Yes.
Very good ideas and viewpoints.
Absolutely, yeah.
Very good. Good to come back with a bang.
Yes. Yeah, I'm just going to stop saying yes, lots. Yeah. No, it was really good. It was really good. And so we sort of explained at the beginning, my boss, Kieran, Dad Matter's boss, had not asked me, but he said about how he would be interested to hear what she's got to say about that. So I'll put it in there. I hope it was okay. But,
yeah, and that means he's going to have to listen to find out what she said.
Yeah. No, it was really good and really interesting and just great.
Yep.
I love doing this.
I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks very much for listening. Tell your friends if they're vegan. Tell your friends if they're not vegan. Tell your friends if they're West Wing fans.
tell your friends, because like
Just
more,
tell your
more,
friends.
yeah, more people listen, more people are vegan, less animals get killed, the planet stops burning, and everyone becomes healthy, and it's all good
Yes.
fun.
And if you go to our link tree, I've just remembered this. If you go to our link tree, you will find a link to T-Mill where you can buy a How I Vegan podcast t-shirt. How awesome would that be?
Yes, you can wear it out with your friends, and they can go, "What the hell is that on your
What
t-shirt?"
the fuck is he? He's gone nuts. He's gone nuts. But anyway, that would be a laugh, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Thanks for listening. And we'll speak to you next time.
Yes, like, subscribe, rate, review, all the other good stuff. And if you want to get in touch, give us a message or send us an email, howiveganpodcast@gmail.com. Take care. Bye.
Bye.